This episode includes graphic content. Viewer discretion is advised.
In the book of 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verses 16 through 18, it says the following: Rejoice always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. The morning of January 12th of 2010, I remember we were on our way to school and we're in the car. My dad, my brother, my mom, myself, and my cousin. I remember we're all talking, and I remember that day my dad was wearing some new clothes, and everybody in the car were making jokes about it, how he looked nice that day and everything. And he joked about how he was like, yeah, like always, right? And so he dropped us off at school that morning, and everything was fine. Me and my friends, we were in class talking. My brother went to his class, his mom went to work, my dad went to work, like normal. It was a normal day for everybody. And so that afternoon, because normally I would stay after school and wait for my dad to pick us up around 7 when he gets out of work so we could all go home together. But that afternoon, my friends, they came up to me and they were like, Ted, what are you doing waiting for your dad? You're gonna be the only one left in the school. Why don't you just come home with us? You can walk with us, we can take the bus home. So my dad was there at the school that evening. So I was like, okay, let me just go ask my dad first. So then I went upstairs and I asked him, I said, hey, my friends are gonna go home. I'm taking the bus. Is it okay if I take the bus and go with them too? He was like, sure. If you're gonna go, take your brother and your cousin with you. You guys can go. You guys don't have to wait for me that way. So we did that. We left the school around 4 and met up with my friends, and we all went and took the bus to go home. And about around 5:30ish, on the bus, we were on my way home. We had to go over this bridge to get to the other side of town to get home. And right when we were about to cross that bridge, and we felt, the bus, it wasn't feeling right, kind of shook. And at first we didn't know what was going on. The bus driver actually stopped the bus in the middle of the road and got out because he thought it was really something with the tires. So he got out, everybody was in the bus, really not worrying about what's going on. And it wasn't until we felt it again. And when we looked outside, that's when we started realizing what was going on. Because the first thing I saw when I looked out the window, there was a guy on a motorcycle, and he was coming through, and then all of a sudden he just fell off the motorcycle. And then I was like, okay, that's so strange, But then when I looked out again, there was a tall white building next to us, and I just saw the building started like moving side to side, and it just crumbled, fell down. And I mean, it was scary because things like that, you only see that in movies, So now people started panicking. Everybody got off the bus. People started running in all directions. But for us, we know that we had to get to the other side in order for us to get home. And we had to go over that bridge because there's a river. Now, if we don't make it across the bridge in time, we're probably going to be stuck here on the other side of town. So, but that's when it started, the ground started shaking. Started shaking vigorously and stuff. And we're all scared because we're like, what if we start walking across the bridge and then it collapses? So people started running. People were running all over the bridge and people were falling and everything. It was just chaotic. So it wasn't until we got to the other side that we realized that what had happened. We got to the other side, there were a lot of, not really high rises, I would say, but like a couple of 2-3 story houses. And it wasn't until we got there that's when we started seeing all those houses. They were pretty much like floor, ground level. So everything was just down, and then there was so much blood on the ground, and then people crying. People were covered with dust and all kinds of trash and everything. It was just crazy, like seen from a movie, pretty much, from a horror movie. there was so much blood running down the drain and everything. So that's when we actually realized that we just, got hit by an earthquake, and it was a really big one. So now it was up to me, my brother, and my cousin to decide what we're gonna do at the time. So I tried calling my parents, but at the time we didn't get any signal or anything. So we couldn't reach them. So we kept calling, but we couldn't reach anybody. Tried calling my friends, but same thing happened. I couldn't reach them. Public transportation just stopped working. Everybody, dead bodies, people were injured and everything. So there was no public transportation. So if you had to get somewhere, you have to walk by foot. So we decided, okay, well, we're gonna walk home. So we're walking home. What would take us about 45 minutes, in the car. It took us about 3 hours, from 5:30 when the earthquake happened. It only lasted about 35 seconds. From that time till we didn't get home until about 9. And what was scary though on our way home is that the whole time we were walking there, people were walking the opposite direction, leaving the town and going into the city. Because the thing is, we live really close to the water. So the people thought they were afraid that there might be a tsunami coming. So everybody was leaving and they were like, you guys don't go in because the water's gonna come. There's nothing left in there. Everything is down. Everybody's dead. You guys shouldn't go this way. Really, go the other way. And but we were like, no, my family's in there, my house is in there. We're gonna go because we have to make sure everybody's okay. And we kept on walking. On our way home, we saw so many dead bodies. It was literally like we were walking through the cemetery. Like it says in Psalm 23, we're walking through the valley of the shadow of death, pretty much. But when we got home, by the grace of God, the house was still standing. And my grandmother was home. We had some other people at the house. My parents weren't home yet. So we were all worried about them, wondering where they could be and everything. So around 10, my mom made it home. Her mom made it home. She told us her side of the story, how, things happened, when she was on her way there too. So pretty much she went through the same situation. But we waited. My dad never made it home that night. So, everybody was scared because we still got aftermath, all throughout the night. So we didn't really sleep much. We just sat there all night, crying, praying and everything, worrying about my dad pretty much. So the next morning, about 5 a.m, myself, my mom, cousin, we decided, we're gonna go out and gonna go look for my dad because we knew where he was last, So we started walking towards the city at 5. Normally it's an hour drive to get from my house to the city. But since we were on foot, because there was no public transportation, we started walking at 5 a.m. We didn't make it there until about noon. So when we got to the school, the school was gone pretty much. And my dad wasn't there, and then the security guard that's usually on duty, it was like, oh yeah, he was there actually, he got injured. They took him to the nearby hospital. So we decided to walk to the hospital. It was right there, about 5-minute walk. And when we got to the hospital, on our way to the hospital, it was crazy because we were walking to the hospital and then my mom she was walking perfectly fine the whole day. And then on our way to the hospital, that's when she just broke down. She started crying. She's like, I don't have faith anymore. I don't think what we're gonna see is what we're expecting. And I was like, Mom, just don't worry, my dad's probably at the hospital helping people out. Let's just, let's go and figure out what's going on. And then as soon as we walked into the hospital, and then my mom she just fell, she dropped and started crying. And I didn't know what was going on. So I looked over and there was a lady teacher at the school. And she was there, both of her legs were broken. So I'm thinking, and she was friends with my mom. So I was really thinking that it was her my mom had seen, But it wasn't until I looked up, and then I saw, my dad's body, he was just laying there, lifeless, And the way he was, I guess his leg was stuck under a bunch of stuff. So he was like, his leg was pretty much crushed, and you could tell that, a lot of things had fallen on him. So he had his head was, pretty much cut in different places. both of his arms were broken and everything. So it was really hard to see. My cousin started crying. And I mean, for me personally, I didn't cry. And up until this day, it's still hard for me to comprehend, like, why was it that I didn't cry that day. And it's not because it's not because of strength or anything like that, but it's just, I couldn't find those tears to cry. It was just beyond myself, pretty much. I was angry. I guess I went through all 4 stages of grief at that same moment. I was mad that had happened. Like, there was a nurse there trying to explain, what was happening. And I was trying to fight the guy, because I'm like, how did you let him die? How did you let him die? Why did you do this? So pretty much I wanted to blame someone for what had happened. And I was angry. First, I was angry at the people that were there. But then again, my anger was turned towards God. I was like, God, why did you do this? Why did you let this happen? And I went as far as, I hate you, God. If you were really who you say you were, you're God of love, you wouldn't let this happen to us. Like, what are we going to do now? Like, my dad, was pretty much the financial pillar of our family and everything. Like, what are we going to do now? I was really angry. And it was just devastating. The thing that was devastating most for me was, we saw that, we went to the church, got a car and everything, so we buried my father in the cemetery in the Capitol, and then we had to walk back home that day. So walking home, my mom was crying and she's inconsolable, but the biggest challenge for me was, getting home and telling everybody what had happened, because pretty much everyone is expecting all of us to come back. So the entire neighborhood is standing, waiting. And then we're walking in, and then, my mom had taken some of my dad's personal belongings, his bag, wallet, and everything. We're walking home with those things, and automatically people already knew, what had happened. And we even have a cousin of my mom. She was pregnant. When she saw us walking in, she had a miscarriage. It was, I don't even know how to explain it. To see my brother, at the time he was at home waiting for us. And when we were coming back, he was coming, running with open arms, looking for my dad, and told him, Dad's not coming home. I didn't know how to tell him that. It was, but we got home, my mom was crying every day. And my grandmother, I remember, she's actually blind, but as soon as we got there, she asked me, Ted, where's your dad? And I didn't want to tell her what happened. So I was like, he's at the hospital. He's not really well. I don't think he's going to make it. And she was like, so he's dead, right? Is that what you're not trying to tell me? And I was like, yeah. And she started crying. But I guess she's a really strong woman. She's a woman of God. And she was the first person to tell me, it's going to be okay. She says, sometimes these things happen for a reason. God sometimes put us through things that we can't handle ourselves. Because a lot of times we think that, God won't put us through things that we can't handle. But the reality, though, is that He does put us through things that we cannot handle ourselves, so that when we're going through those trials, we realize that we need Him in every aspect of our lives. And she talked about the story of Job also. She always said, think about Job, he lost everything in one day, but he didn't lose faith in God. So she's like, yes, you may be angry at God, but think about it. You're still alive. So you have to make the best out of this situation. And that's when I started thinking about it, Yes, I lost my father, it was a guy that I looked up to, my role model, someone I always wanted to imitate. And all of a sudden he was taken away from us, not because he was sick, no one was prepared for that. It was just unexpected. And now he's gone, we have to, it's like a reset button pressed in our lives. We have to start over without him. It was really hard to cope with. But the fact of the matter is that it could have been all of us. Had we stayed at the school that day, we all could have been dead, but that didn't happen. And that itself is reason for us to, I guess, not rejoice, but give God thanks. We have to be thankful because God pretty much gave us a second chance to make it right. And that main situation is one of those things that made me realize, how precious life is. and we don't deserve it. It's just one of those things that make you experience God's grace towards you. Because it could have easily been the entire country wiped out. But instead, God didn't let all of us perish. Some of us were injured terribly. Some of us will hold that scar forever, both physically and mentally. But there's some of us that weren't affected at all. And it's just a way to show you God's mercy and His grace towards us. He gives each and every single one of us a second chance. And though we went through those tough situations, now, like my grandmother said, we ought to use that particular instance so that other people may see God's grace through us. Because now when someone else is going through something that's really hard, you who went through something that was as hard as that, you can actually relate to them. And that way you give them hope by the way you talk to them, how you embrace them and everything. You give them hope of a better tomorrow. You show them the light out of every situation, because everything really does happen for a reason. And we know there's a good in every situation. You may not see it now, but there is a good in every situation. So, those words are really what kept me going. And there's another song that, it's a Creole song that she was singing every night while my mom was crying. Everybody at home was crying. And there's a song she would always sing. It's that song, Si Je Dis I'm Vivant. It's a really powerful song. It's like, it just hits home every time I hear that song. And it makes you think about, you could have been dead right now. You could have been among the dead people. You would have been history or just a piece of someone's memory. But God gave you the opportunity to be alive, to tell that story. You have to use that story for His glory.